I can call the meeting to order, and it looks like it is 7:02, close enough. And I'm calling this public hearing to order at 7:02 in accordance with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Executive Order suspending certain provisions, of the open meeting law. We're conducting this meeting online. And to ensure public access to the deliberations of the meeting, the public may access this call through telephone and video conferencing. Members of the public will have an opportunity to ask questions and provide public comment toward the end of the meeting discussions. And to do so, please raise your hand in the participant function. Actually, my screen actually has a little logo for raise your hand. And I think Heather, as the host, will see that, and I hope I will. And I guess you can also ask a question, raise your hand if you're on the phone by dialing 9. The host is going to unmute all microphones in the public comment period, and then you can ask the questions. So here we go. The meeting is called to order. And the first item is a presentation by Anka Voss. It's a summary, a brief summary, Anka.
Well, see, I know you were at, first of all, thank you so much to the community for inviting me, and thank you, Nancy, for having me here today. You already saw this presentation, and Melissa had sent me a quick email saying, keep it short. And I see you have a long agenda. So I do have a few slides. It's not the exact same presentation that I gave to the preservation
CPA,
but it's a smaller version of it. So
I do think the members that are here have read it. So,
great.
So that will give you permission to not have to walk everybody through it line by line.
Okay. So I think so if you don't mind, I'll share my screen, but I won't. Like I said, it's shortened from the other presentation. But that, since the other members weren't there, I just want to provide visual cue for just a few things. And so I will share my screen, and I will let you know. Oops.
Okay.
Hold on. I'm able to share my screen.
Oh, good. Okay.
Okay, hold on. There we go.
Got it.
Can you see it?
I can see it.
Okay.
Others?
Yes.
Okay. Here you go. And so what I'm going to do is let me go through. So I'll just say very quickly, first of all, thank you so much for having me here today and giving me an opportunity to tell you a little bit about this project. And I wanted to just start out just to not give you a long library history, but just to recognize the founding of the library and its founder, William Monroe, who made his money in Boston and New York and London, and then came back to Concord, and in 1872 built, and in 1873 opened the library. And we're so grateful because it's still a gem today. And I think what's also, so here we go. If you haven't seen a wonderful picture of 1873, especially since we're going through construction right now, it's always nice to see how it all started in 1873. But I think a couple of things I wanted to point out that to me are important in regard to this grant application and the support that the library, special collections, but also the Concord Oral History Project has had, is that, as you know, Monroe conceived, when he founded the library, of a unique approach to maintain the library and negotiated with officials from the town of Concord, Middlesex, and Massachusetts to create a public-private partnership, and that partnership still exists today. And it allows the Concord Free Public Library to be the kind of institution it is today. And I think that's especially true for special collections, because the corporation directs and works with me to manage that part of the library. And I'm so grateful for their support, but the support of the town of Concord, of course, the library committee, and the friends. I mean, everybody gives a part to this collaboration. And so what I wanted to say, why I wanted to bring this up, is that to me, the Concord Oral History Program, and you'll find out in a minute, is an excellent example of this enduring partnership, because it is a partnership between the library, special collections, and the Historical Commission, which incidentally, I was reading your mission statement, was established in 1873. So the same year that the library opened its doors. And as of course, you know, the special collections houses manuscripts and lots of other material, archival records, ephemera, photographic holdings, and of course, fine art. And we also hold the records of the town of Concord. And I work closely with the municipal archivist of Concord, who was hired actually the same time that more or less the same week that I was in October 2019. So Nate Smith and I work very closely together in making the town's records accessible in special collections. But what's important about special collections is that as part of our mission is that we also host the Concord Oral History Program collection, which currently consists of over 500 recordings. And this is a screenshot of our online portal. And I can tell you that, you know, these collections get, you know, extensive use by, you know, historians, students, family historians, and because it's online, people, you know, by searching a name from all over, not just Concord, will have access to this content. So again, it's a really important part. The oral history program is a really important part of learning about Concord's past and its history. And as you read in the grant application, that, you know, the oral history program was actually established under the direction of Marjorie Girard in 1976, but then really took off when Ray Gerlich took it on, and by 1977, Renee had already recorded approximately 30 interviews. So she was very busy, and one of the earliest interviewees was David Little. You can read the transcript of his oral history on our website, but his cassette, unfortunately, is only on cassette. But again, what's important too about the Oral History Project, and I know you already read that in the application and I'll be brief, is that from the inception, the town of Concord, through the Concord Historical Commission, has funded the program with additional support provided by the Gerlich family, with joint oversight by the Commission on the Concord Free Public Library. So again, this has been a partnership from its inception. And so we're really grateful. Also, just to clarify, all the recordings, transcriptions, and associated documents are the property of the town of Concord. So although special collections is owned by the Library Corporation, the Oral History Project, we manage as we do the records of the town of Concord. Those records are housed in special collections. We provide access to those records in special collections and on our website, but the records and the material are actually owned by the town. You know, as a result of the fact that this is an initiative that was created by the commission. Again, as you read, I think in the proposal, the oral histories are prepared, used frequently. And of course, one of the first interpretations of the oral histories was the book by Renee in 1985 in the commemoration of the 350th birthday, Concord in the Days of Strawberries and Streetcars, in which Renee used the Concord oral histories that she had conducted at that point extensively to write her book. And that's also true for what Bill Bailey did in collaboration with Renee, which is that he interviewed immigrants, specifically new immigrants to Concord as part of his project. Again, this is just an amazing exceptional example of how these oral histories have used, historians to interpret the past. And again, quickly, I interviewed Bill earlier this year about these oral histories because he just donated them to the special collections. And so I interviewed Bill on the new virtual program that is on the website. So if you want to hear Bill talk about this oral history project that he did with Renee on new immigrants, I invite you to go and listen to it on our website. So these are the amazing highlights of the Concord Oral History Project. Unfortunately, many of the recordings that are in the collections, including all the ones that were conducted by Bill, are available only on cassette tape and are in danger of being lost due to the shelf life of cassettes. That includes the recording of David Little that was made in 1977. That cassette, I don't know when the last time it was listened to, but it is only on cassette. We have no other version. We have a transcript, but I think the whole purpose of oral history is that we can listen to the interview, right? And it's not a transcription because anybody could just sit down and write an essay about their life. Oral history provides their voice and intonation to that history. And as you can see, the oral histories that are in our collection that are currently not transcribed, are not digitized, are just on cassette tape, are all these projects that you see in front of you. So some of them go back to the 80s, yes, and the Concord Oral History Project. You can see specifically the Concord Oral History Project that was run or directed by Renee, they are tapes dating back to 1977 through 2006 that are just on cassette tape. Which is why Special Collections embarked on a multi-year oral history preservation and access project in the spring of 2020. Even though the library was closed to the public, Special Collections and library staff, we worked at the library almost all through COVID. I think we were only closed for about 4 months from March through about June of 2020. But my goal for this preservation and access project and phase 1 was already completed through work of the Special Collections staff, myself and my colleague Jesse Hopper, is that we commenced this project again to inventory and assess the oral history project. And this began in 2020 and was completed this spring of 2021. And this project was to create an inventory of the oral history collections held at the Concord Free Public Library to locate and identify all the tapes, transcripts, and recordings, identify the different versions and dates, and the condition of those recordings. The boxes, as you can see, containing the tapes were fairly disorganized. These are actually the more organized versions after we sorted them a little bit. And multiple tapes and CDs were located in these files containing straight transcripts and other documentation. At the end of phase 1, so this is the work that we conducted over this past year, we inventoried all the tapes, and you see just some screenshots of a few of the pages of the work that we did, which essentially means is we went in and created several Excel spreadsheets. We identified each oral history. We identified when they were recorded, by whom, what form they were in, if they'd been digitized, if there was a transcript, etc. And so this was a significant step, and this is the step which gave us the information that we needed to take the next step, phase 2 of the project, which is the grant application that you read. So at this stage is what we're looking for is to migrate all these cassette tapes to the digital form so we can put them online, because as long as they are on cassette tape, they are only accessible in special collections. And actually, we currently do not even have a cassette player that would allow us to listen to them. I think somebody in reference upstairs does have a cassette player, but actually a tape from 1977, I would not put in a cassette player because that tape might be brittle. By me putting in the cassette tape, I could destroy it, which is one reason why you want to send these cassette tapes at this point to a professional who can inspect them, clean them, put them in a new case if necessary, and then migrate them to the digital format. So the current application is phase 2 of this project, and it's seeking $11,550 to fund the digitization of these oral histories. So the 341 oral histories that we have only on cassette tape. And it is much more efficient to send this to a vendor who has all the equipment to do this work. And then we are also adding another $11,900 to transcribe 70 of the oral histories that have never been transcribed. So not only do we only have the cassette copy, we don't even have a transcript. And the transcription, again, it's much more efficient to hire professionals to do this work offsite getting this work done. And of course, this is just another step to make this material accessible to the Concord community and beyond to learn about Concord. Phase 3, and I'm almost done, after we have the materials have been returned to us, so the digital files have been returned to us, and they will be returned to us in 2 ways. We will receive a WAV file, which is considered the archival digital file of any audio recording, and then we'll be receiving an MP3 file, which is what you put online. And what our plan is in phase 3 will be the plan is to overhaul the online platform for the oral history. So what you saw earlier will be replaced by this platform, which we are currently developing. And it's on a Mecca. And all the oral histories will be hosted on this site and searchable on the site. And that work, I hope, will commence in 2023. I do not, and this came up in my presentation previously, I do not anticipate requesting additional funds for this last phase, phase 3. Although implementing it will take significant staff time, I intend to work with Simmons University students. So we have Simmons University interns in special collections regularly. They have a very, very strong archival program, one of the best in the country. And so I will be training and supervising graduate students to be doing this work. So there will be a contribution on my part, and I have been asked by the Community Preservation Committee to send an updated memo outlining these contributions that Special Collections has made already to this project in inventorying and in assessing the oral history collection, and also in completing phase 3, which we will do using a combination of staff time, but primarily the time of students. And that's it. So I wanted to say thank you to you and the committee. And again, allowing me to present this project, and this funding from the CPC for phase 2 would bring us one step closer to preserve and make these valuable resources available to the future. Thank you so much for your support.
Okay, Anka, thank you.
You're welcome.
That was abbreviated.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I guess at this point in time, questions from the historical commissioners? If there are any.
I read all the documents that were submitted. I think there's clarity and all that. The printer also printed everything. There were about 49 pages of.
Oh gosh, I'm so sorry.
Oh yeah, it came up. It's all right. Anyway, it's exciting. Really is exciting.
Okay, good.
Anybody else? Rebecca? Rebecca, maybe.
Yep, so no, just so you're looking then, because I think there already was a drafted letter, right, of support, and so you're looking just for the support
Mhm.
of the historical commission in terms of this?
That would be great.
Right.
Okay.
As you probably know, Melissa and I, have discussed this project, and she encouraged me to apply for this project, and asked me to please present to the historical commission, and yes, seeking your support of this application, if you would be so kind.
Yeah, no, I think it's just wonderful. I have read some of the transcripts that are online, just in doing some research for a different project I happened across them, and I think it's just such an incredible resource for the community. So,
Great.
thank you.
You're very welcome.
So I'm sorry Melissa isn't here, and I don't think she's going to be able to join us, but
Yes, I knew that she was not going to be here. She's out of town.
because they're, Heather, we can't really make a decision on the letter tonight, though, can we? Because there's some outstanding questions about that the CPC did raise. Somebody on the CPC raised the question of eligibility. So.
Well, I don't think that's the historical commission's jurisdiction. That would be the CPC's jurisdiction to
Exactly.
determine if it's eligible or not. But the historical commission can still vote to support a project and submit a letter of support.
Okay.
Okay, great.
One
Okay,
thing
so
I
we-
wanted to add.
Just leave the questions of eligibility to CPC.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much for your time and for your consideration. And we're very excited to bring more of these really important resources to light.
Okay, and I think if the commissioners who are here tonight agree that to allow Melissa and Heather to go ahead and draft a letter of support, or then a motion would be appropriate.
I make a motion that we move forward with this.
And I'll second that.
Okay, got that? All in favor? Michael?
Aye.
Rebecca?
Aye.
Yeah, and I. And will that come back to the commission at all, or will you guys just go ahead?
No, we'll just send it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Oh,
Great.
thank you so much. Okay.
And we can move on to the next agenda item, which is demolition review for 111 Cottage Street.
Right.
And I'm not sure who exactly is speaking for that, but I'm guessing Ryan?
Yep.
I
That's
see
fine.
you.
Yeah, great to meet everybody. As you can tell, I'm Ryan Urowitz. I'm from Natick, Massachusetts. I'm 28 years old. I have a small construction company with my father, and we build homes as well. That's what we purchased 111 Cottage for. The original plan being that we were going to renovate what was there. And then after kind of looking into it, we realized probably not the best idea. Unfortunately, it's a old home with all of the bad things that come with an old home. Old wiring, old HVAC, sagging floors, questionable foundation in the older parts of the house. And also, unfortunately, it doesn't really have much of the appeal to an old house. There's not a ton of architectural niceties of the inside. So that's why we're here. We're looking to demolish the existing house and build a new home there.
Okay, and Heather, could you summarize there was a site visit for this and the findings?
Yeah, so Michael and I conducted the site visit. We walked around the exterior of the house, and together we determined the house to be historically significant based on its architectural style and its age. There's limited information on the history of the house. It is mentioned in the Macris form for the Harness Shop Hill area. But there's no history on like the owners or anything like that on the house. I don't know if Michael has anything to add.
No, but I, in concert with your comments initially, there actually is a home across the street that looks like it may have been designed by the same architect, or certainly at that same time. And you can see how that home was upgraded and sustained, certainly a portion of the exterior. So I beg to differ. I think that it is a significant structure, and I think it reflects the character of that street at that time. And for those of us in this community, we find structures of that period that have a history, they have a story to tell, and we think that's what is the basis of our character of this community. So I believe that this structure, if possible, should be saved, and I think it can be saved.
One thing I just wanted to kind of discuss. So I read the Historic Resources Master Plan, and that goes into significant detail in that West Concord area, even to go street by street and look at homes. And so 110 Cottage Street was called out in that for architectural significance, and the property at 111 was not put on that report. I'm not sure if that's because of the way that it was preserved, being that it has replacement windows and it has vinyl siding, and the previous homeowner seemed to do some of his like do-it-yourself additions to the property that don't really fit with that period. So I just was kind of curious what your guys' perspective on that report may be.
So Michael has said what he wants. I don't have particular in-depth knowledge of that, but I think Leslie Suderland has her hand
Yeah.
up.
And thank you. I'm at 76 Crest Street. I'm at the corner. And Ryan, I'm at the corner of Crest and Cottage.
Oh, great.
So I'm the pink house, just recently painted. And you were 2 from me on Cottage Street.
Nice.
I first of all, I want to say Harness Shop Hill has been lovely. And I think the town planning board, in the past, we didn't count, nothing counted for planning there, put anything there. And now we're finding our clout with the West Concord, etc. My concern would be more the signage. It's more, we have room on every side of every house. What is the signage? Are you going over that? Will you be non-conforming in terms of the physical width of the structure? Because
Okay.
I think of the neighbor on the corner and I think of maybe whatever's over there. I don't want people to just say, oh, it's West Concord.
Yeah. That's a
Okay,
great point.
so thank you for that. Are there any other comments? And tonight we are voting on whether or not this is preferably preserved, correct?
Mhm.
Yeah, so
Yes.
just to follow up with Leslie's comment, so the Historical Commission tonight is determining whether the current existing house is preferably preserved or not. That is what's under their jurisdiction. They don't have jurisdiction over what house would be constructed on the lot. So tonight their discussion can only be about the existing house and whether it's preferably preserved.
But it's not about the dimensions of the proposed house.
Correct. Yeah, that doesn't come into play with their
Because
discussion.
what we
tonight.
got was the dimensions of proposed house to say that was going to be discussed tonight. That's what I'm asking.
That's beyond beyond the purview of the historical commission.
Right.
Okay, no, that's
Just to
fine.
brief-
It was just.
So if we find,
the
Just to
documents.
briefly answer that, we won't be non-conforming, we won't be going over boundaries, anything like that, but we could have a discussion offline if you'd like about kind of like preferred.
It's not my house, you know, I just stand up for
No,
West
totally.
Concord.
so
I agree.
the only thing we can decide tonight is whether or not it is preferably preserved. And if it's preferably preserved, that would invoke the 1-year demolition delay, correct? So.
Yes, so the commission can invoke a 1-year demolition
Right.
delay
And
if the house is found to be preferably preserved.
And so we need a motion.
Yeah, I make a motion that we issue a demolition delay on the structure.
Is there a second? I guess I would second. There's only 3 of us, so so difficult. Okay, all in favor? Michael,
Aye.
Rebecca,
Sorry, I'm actually not sure I know enough about the structure. I might want to make you wait.
I have some photographs if we'd like to.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I might want to see it more.
You can pull
Just
up
'cause I'm
photos.
listening, yeah, because I'm listening to what you're saying about how 110 was listed, but 111 was not necessarily, and they're not, they're very trippy. Oh, thank you, that's helpful. That's very helpful, thank you.
so which is which? Oh, that's the one in question today.
Mhm.
Yes,
tonight.
yes, it is.
Yeah. And then I'm having
Some
trouble
sections.
going around to the front.
And you're saying that structure in the back was added?
Yeah, it seems to be have added, it's on a slab foundation, it's all
Mhm.
new. It's kind of like just stopped on the back. When you walk through the house, it's kind of an awkward, you go down 4 stairs and then you're in this other room.
Hmm.
That thing on the side in that picture as well, or in this picture, if you could, you go
Yep.
down to Heather, one more. This little sunroom-ish built part of the side is built on kind of like piers, like cement posts.
The porch.
And if you actually zoom in, the siding's all melted on that side. The front deck is on cinder blocks, so I don't think that that's historical. And also the roof structure of that is pretty beat up. That would probably have to be completely removed. So,
Well, yeah.
yeah, like I said, we agreed with you guys. I think there's a ton of history in the area, and I like the house across the street. It's just, once we started to dig into what we would actually do, it became difficult to maintain that structure. And
Well,
I don't know if this helps you guys at all or anything, but we have very, like, our taste is Concord, you know what I mean? It's not going to be some new modern building. It would be, a typical Cape or colonial style. That's what we go for, and that's what fits your area. We're not going to throw something different in there. And you can see this property has beautiful gardens and unbelievable landscaping that we also are going to do our best to keep.
Mhm. That will be harder if the building's demolished.
right.
Right,
And,
but
you know,
our thought is kind of like transplanting some of these dogwoods that are around the front into the back and holding them, and so that we can actually re-landscape the new home with what was existing there without killing it.
But I think, to go back to my earlier statement, if you look at the house across the street,
Yeah,
and you see what they did, obviously they preserved what they could. And I don't disagree, there might be certain elements of the existing structure that need to be reinforced or upgraded, but that's characteristic of any structure that's several hundred years old,
yeah.
or 150 years old. And I do think that you sound like you are very sincere and creative. If you looked at that structure across the street and saw the actually very uh, 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 architecturally improved structure with the facade and the certain section of the existing home that was there, I think you should use that as a basis of where you want to go with this particular house and site. You know, our mission is to sustain the historic inventory of Concord, and this, I believe, is part and parcel of that.
So we do have a motion on the floor, do we not?
Yes,
So,
I made the motion.
thank you. So thank you for those photos. So I also will vote aye, Nancy.
Okay, so Michael's motion is that it is preferably preserved.
Yes,
And Heather votes aye, Michael votes aye. And I vote aye with the hope that if you want to talk about options to protect some of that structure, you might be surprised at what you find
right.
in terms of,
Meaning what?
you might find it to be a better house than you think it is.
Right.
But we could discuss that offline or not.
And what would that entail? I'm sorry, I don't-
I don't know. I think, a flimsy porch put on the front is not a permanent thing. The plastic siding, you might find much better siding underneath that. You might find it's a more worthy house.
yeah, I think the sagging floors was the one thing we had in question, but
Yeah,
I hear you guys and appreciate it.
yeah. Thank you very much. for
Thank you.
your
And we look forward to
understanding.
working with you going forward to see, what we can help you with in order to get to the point where you are, making an investment that the cost benefit ratio is there for you, and we sustain the character of that street and West Concord.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Is there a, so sorry, obviously I haven't worked with you guys specifically before, but is there anything you guys do to kind of put your perspective on a new building that, like, say we wanted to, say renovating what's existing is just so difficult and time consuming and dollar consuming, would there be a way to reconstruct the existing form, or is that something that you guys don't typically do?
That's not really our purview,
No,
but
So-
Heather can be more definitive on that.
So the commission does have the authority to waive the remainder of the delay period under certain conditions that are agreed upon between the commission and the owner. So in the past, sometimes that it's included a historic structures report being done on the building, professional documentation, including floor plans, elevations of the existing building. So that's something that the commission can discuss if you wanted to put a proposal forward for some under conditions that you'd be willing to do. If we could discuss it, we could put it on a future agenda and they can have a discussion whether those conditions are acceptable to them and they would waive the remainder of the delay period so you wouldn't have to wait out the year. Sometimes, there aren't any conditions that you'd be willing to accept for a certain house and they can't waive the delay period.
So one of the things I'm wondering is question to Heather, really, it's more specific. If a certain portion of the house that was more historic is preserved, but a different kind of addition was added than the one that's there now, are the floors that are sagging in the newer addition or the more historic house?
The more historic portion.
Hmm. Okay.
May I don't know if this is it's okay to interrupt at this point. I would just say the house across from me on Cottage Street was torn down
Mhm.
and a whole new house was put up there. So I don't know why is Ryan's steps to get somewhere different than the steps that were taken from across the street. It was a lovely house. The roof was sinking, yeah, but it was part of Harness Shop Hill, and it was torn down, and a new, not modern, but a mega house was put up there that was far different that was put up. So I asked the commission to, in fairness to Ryan, to say, why was that tear down approved and Ryan's not approved? And again, I'm only talking, my concern is the signage for every house. That's all I'm saying. Thank you.
Is the what for every house?
Is the what? My concern
Setbacks.
is the signage. Like I looked, I said, oh, this looks like it might impinge. I don't know what the,
Oh, how it sits on.
have the
property.
signage from each house, and is Ryan's gonna be wider, which says the next house can't
That's-
have that.
That's not-
And because there are encroachings, because in West Concord, a lot of times, it was the Wild West show. And planning commission has finally said, no, if you want to move if you want to build on top of your garage, you have to move your garage because your garage is non-conforming. So there was a lot of non-conforming stuff in Concord. But all I'm saying, Ryan, number one, welcome to the neighborhood. But two, I think in conversation with Ryan, to look about why that house was able to be torn down across the street on Cottage Street on the other side.
What was the date of that? Do you know?
Oh,
Heather?
it
Do you
was-
remember that?
Years ago or so. And it's
Oh,
it's
years.
quote colonial
Yeah.
structure, it's white, but it's huger than what the house was before. And I want to know why that passed and Ryan is getting issues. So that's all. I just want some history.
What we have, I'm sure someone would be happy to look into it. I don't know if we can as members, but it would seem to me that if in fact that structure was under the auspices of the historical commission and the commission, or it was never presented to the commission, I don't know when this was done, maybe that structure didn't have the history or the character of the structure that we have before us today.
I'm just saying,
Well-
and I'm just saying, that's part of West Concord, which has been the Wild
Right.
West show, because
I know.
there are many houses on Harness Shop Hill, and that was a long time structure. And I'm saying, Ryan, look
Right.
into it because it was torn down and
Yeah.
Right.
put up something you may be proposing. I'm just concerned about, don't go too wide, so
Yep.
you propose it.
Right.
That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
So we have a vote though.
Yes.
So I think you could come back to us with a proposal maybe to adjust. I don't know now what, if it's preferably preserved, it's the documentation that we've asked for before primarily that we've considered as a mitigation for the 1-year delay.
Excuse me, Heather, if he has questions or he has some insight that he would like from the town, does he reach out to the planning department or does he reach out to the building department? Or can we, communicate with him in any way to help him get some clarity on options, what can be done to modify the structure? Is that?
Yeah, he can always reach out to me via
Okay.
email or phone. If your plans change a bit, if you're willing to have a discussion with the commission at a future meeting about, providing some sort of historical documentation, floor plans, elevations, that sort of thing, as a trade-off for waiving the delay. But we can discuss over email some things that you may be able to do.
Okay.
We appreciate you coming tonight.
Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
great to meet you
Thank
guys.
Thank you.
Good to meet you.
Look
even in
forward
this
to working with
format.
you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving right along. Historic house marker application for 295 Barrett's Mill Road.
Yes, so Alan is not here, so I guess I will present it. Let me just screen share for. So it's an application for historic house marker for 295 Barrett's Mill Road in Concord. Okay, I can pull up a picture. But they are asking for permission to do a historic house marker with the Old North Bridge motif stating Newton Gross 1889. And they have provided some research on the house here. And mostly from the Macris form.
Okay, wait a minute. So I didn't quite understand the question about the North Bridge motif.
So that it's just they have an option of 2 motifs for the
Sorry.
for the
Okay,
marker. It's just
Yeah.
like part of the engraving. So Old
I
North Bridge
gotcha.
makes sense for Barrett's Mill Road being on this side of
Gotcha.
Concord.
Okay. And what's the other option? I'm sorry.
I'd
I don't,
actually-
I
would
guess
have
I'm
to-
not
I would have to
familiar
look.
with markers.
I have it somewhere. Or West Concord Depot is the other motif.
Oh, gotcha.
So that wouldn't make
So-
sense for
So it's
a
more
Barrett's Mill Roadhouse.
Concord and West Concord. Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yep.
Is there, and the motion that is needed is one to approve the historic marker.
Yes.
Do we
I
have,
make a motion to approve the historic marker.
okay, and Rebecca, do you want a second?
I can second that.
Okay, okay, Michael,
Yes,
Rebecca?
I think I made the motion for, oh, I'm sorry.
Oh,
Whatever you want me to
know-
do. The answer is yes. It's yes.
You know, I hate, oh, there, my screen just disappeared into a tiny square.
Mhm.
Yeah, Nancy, aye.
Just real quick, I think it was the last historic house marker we were looking at. I think Bob made the point of saying it'd be nice to have the women's names on the houses sort of whenever we can moving forward. So I don't know if we know Norman Gross's wife's name, but that might be something to consider as they put it on as we.
Yeah.
I second that.
That's probably a good thing to consider at a future meeting.
Yes.
I'm not trying to brush it under the table.
No.
It's a very active conversation in the National Park Service, I know.
Yes.
I don't know where it's going, but I have an opinion about it. So. But to make a policy, it might be better if we had the whole commission. And it would be a policy change, wouldn't it? It would be.
Yeah,
because now it's- yeah,
We agree.
yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Make my stand-in job a little easier. Okay, Envision Concord. I know that Melissa and Heather have been doing quite a bit of groundwork on this, and maybe you could help us understand where you are with that.
Yeah, so
What?
I'm just going to screen share for a second. So we received a letter from the select board. They're looking to have a meeting to kind of go over the Envision Concord plan and where boards and committees stand on some of their goals and objectives. And so Melissa started a chart here that I had put online. And then I've also received one from the planning board that includes some of our work as well. So, they mentioned, we made amendments to demo review bylaw, that sort of thing. And then let's stop share so I started a new chart today. I started a new chart today, and I'm going to try to put like HDC and Historical Commission on the same chart and just color code who's doing what, and provide like an update on past like bylaw changes that we've made, and future things that we're working on. So I'm just kind of organizing it a little bit different than what Melissa had going. So I don't know if anyone had any specific questions about this or comments that you wanted to make sure we included on it. It is due November 10th to submit. It's, you know, I don't think this is anything like super formal. It's just kind of like a status update.
And
And I'm happy to just work on it with Melissa and finish it up and send it in time for November 10th. But we wanted to make sure the commission had eyes on it, and if you had anything you wanted to make sure we include.
I think that would be fine, and I don't think we need a vote on that, probably.
No.
Are there any other broader public meetings on this that you're aware of? I'm not, but
Not that I'm
I know
aware of.
it was a topic at the Public Works Commission briefly, so.
Yeah,
Okay,
I think all
everybody-
the boards and committees are talking about it, trying to
everybody's
get this
looking at it,
the
yeah.
status update done
Yeah.
in time.
So at least it's an update, not the creation of the whole plan, so.
Exactly.
Right.
I guess
But I
the one,
think it's also helpful to look at some of these goals and kind of remind us of things we should be thinking of in
Yeah,
the future. You know, I know we've been really focused on demo review, bylaw changes, but maybe like after next year, we take a step back from changing that and work on one of the other goals. Make sure we're kind of meeting all of the goals that were listed in the plan.
I guess the one thing I would add, and I feel like this is sort of a goal for the larger community as we get to 2030, but just the engagement of the younger community in all of this, and maybe
Right.
for us that can fall under the historical coffees that we're reviving. You know, we've got a great list of people who are invited, but there are also people who already know and care, if that makes sense. How do we get people who might not be thinking about these issues to want to come and to want to engage? And I hear a lot of talk, I'm gonna costume, hold on once, about people who have moved to this town and love this town. Maybe they know it's got, oh, now we've got no lights. You know that it has historical character, know that it has a good school system or whatever, but they're not necessarily in dialogue with the town and its history and what all that means, and how do we reach those people? So again, I think in terms of our chart here, some of that can be just ways to brainstorm engagement for the coffees moving forward,
Yeah.
and things like that. But just thinking about that in the larger context of 2030. Can you turn the light on for me?
I think that's an ongoing challenge for all kinds of entities park-wide. And that's a good question for us to take up. And there's a couple of younger people here. Okay.
Right, well, thank
Demolition.
you.
Demolition review bylaw amendment.
Yes. So last meeting we left off, I had showed you guys some of the other towns' definitions of partial demolition.
Right.
And I know people wanted a little bit more time to think about it and look at the other towns and how they define partial demolition. So I'm hoping that tonight I can get a little bit more feedback on which direction you'd like, you know, we want to try to move in, so that I can draft the amendments to the bylaw, so we can have a working draft to start looking at. In my opinion, I mean, some of these are really strict that trigger partial demolition. I think it might be best to kind of ease into it. So maybe it is, you know, something like 50% of the structure being demolished triggers demolition review, versus something like 25% that's, you know, a smaller amount triggers review. And it might be like an easier pill for town meeting to swallow, like a 50% partial demolition. And then we could always come back in a few years if we find out that that's not really helping us at all.
Yeah, it's,
But that's up to you guys.
it would be really interesting to have some examples of, you know, like the Barrett's Mill House. And there was one on Monument Street several years ago where, and also another one on Barrett's Mill where in one case, the house was completely engulfed by a brand new house. And that's not really maybe demolition, but if you went.
Right, I think Newton's bylaw speaks to that.
Yeah, I don't
It
remember
talks
that
about,
actually.
No, one of them
Dealt with that.
Yeah, one of them talks about enveloping the
Yeah,
existing structure.
I can think of.
Removal or envelopment by subsequent additions of 50% of more of a single exterior wall surface.
Yeah, and
So
that-
that's,
that might be, I think that's very interesting to me because now I've thought of another one. That an old historic house, totally.
so I think that's pretty strict.
Yeah,
Like
it's
50% of any single wall being, you know, enveloped by
Yeah.
an addition is really strict. That's gonna start triggering like
Yeah,
every addition
I
in
know, I
Concord.
know. Yeah,
Um,
I know.
I'm sorry,
So-
it was gonna start triggering what?
like
Okay.
every addition in Concord would
Right.
trigger
Right,
demolition review
Right.
for that. So I think that's
Only on a
super
house that's
strict.
50 years old or more though, right? Not on
right.
every
Right,
house.
right.
Right.
So I just have
I
a
mean,
question,
I
because
like
I know this came up before when the demolition delay was originally evaluated. And I remember, and I think you just referenced it subtly just now, but at that time that that the planning department, the board wanted to present something to the town meeting that they felt the town meeting could approve and not try to do something like Newton because maybe the town meeting wouldn't approve it. Is that correct? Okay,
Yeah, I think
so-
it's always easy to kind of ease our way into
Okay, so
something.
here's what I'm confused by, and I'm sorry. So I know that we have this Envision meeting coming up, okay? And Melissa really hit it, you know, right out of the park with her concerns about where we're headed as a community. So if in fact, and again, I see one as a dichotomy of the other. If in fact we need to be moving in a direction where we're more proactive in many areas, then, and that's a reflective of the community, then why would the town meeting oppose this? I'm just curious, just because residents want to have the right to do what they want with their homes, or?
Right, because then
did-
I think residents, you know, would see if 50% of one wall, any addition basically
I-
that you
I-
put on a house. So then
Yeah.
now they're like, well, this really affects me. You know, I'm all for historic preservation and I'm not going to tear down my house, but if I wanted to put an addition onto my house, now I'm going to trigger this review. So
Okay,
then
so-
I think there's more people that are going to be concerned about their rights of what to do with their property.
Mhm.
Versus town meeting saying, yeah, if you're gonna tear down a historic house, there should be a review process and possibly a delay for that.
Yeah.
But I think
So-
when you get into like enveloping a structure or just enveloping 50% of one wall, that's really strict.
Right, okay. So, okay, I concur
Yeah.
with that, but there are other areas where we could move in a different direction to become, you know, I guess, I don't want to debate the issue right now, but I know when this Envision, Melissa sent it out, and then you sent it out, and then Melissa sent it out. I went and spoke to a number of people in town, not only residents in town, but I went to see the brokers in town. Because having been a real estate developer and certainly worked on a lot of historic structures, I went and I specifically asked, let me ask you a question. When a customer comes in and is interested in Concord, okay? how do you, when you talk about the community, when you talk about the character of the town, and what do people say? Why are they here? What is it for the schools? Is it the safety? Yes, we know all those things. And they said, the three brokers offices that I spoke with said, each one, they say the same thing: the history of the community. Whether it's the second sentence or the first sentence, it's the character and the history of the community. So coming into town, yes, there are some people that come in and want to get a tear down and get a least expensive structure because the land is worth X. We can tear it down and build something bigger, and the cost, our numbers are going to increase with our profit. But if in fact the brokers are telling me that they tell the customers up front that this is a historic community, this is this is what we thrive on in Concord, for not only the residents who live here and the value of the structures, but certainly the businesses themselves, as all of you know better than me. That's what attracts people to the town, between the Minuteman Park and all the historic, the North Bridge, et cetera, et cetera. So I just see one, I'm missing something. That's all I'm missing, that the town meeting group isn't, and I understand the wall. I want to take the wall out of the dialogue. But I know when we went there with the demolition delay bylaw to upgrade it, that we only went to a certain point because we were worried that we're going to vote it down.
Yeah.
So I
Right,
wanna
because
know
it
what
had
I'm
happened
missing.
in the past, that
I know.
before I was here, I
Right.
think it was too dramatic of a change and town
Okay.
meeting voted it down.
Okay. So now that the Envision group is going to hopefully get reenacted and move forward, do you think that the town committee, the town members are going to also see this as a place they should be going, or we just don't know?
I don't know. I think this past town meeting was really telling in how much support we got for the bylaw change. I
Okay.
think there was only like 2 or 3 people that I saw voted, in opposition. So I think
Right.
that was pretty telling.
Right. And I just want to go back to what Rebecca said, because I think that's important, because I've been doing some work recently, now that I have a few minutes to do something, with regard to getting younger people involved. And I certainly saw that myself, because I went to work at City Hall when I was 17 and got involved. But when we see climate change in the world, or you see climate change in every community now, you now see high school students getting involved and getting proactive. Okay? So I concur with Rebecca that if there is a way that we can get 16, 17, 18-year-olds involved specifically in Concord, maybe Lexington too, but Concord, get them involved in whatever is going on with regard to the agendas that we have going forward. I think that's going to help, because believe it or not, when I speak to residents and people, when they see younger people involved, it seems to bring a little more credibility to something that they're missing and something they're not seeing. So I do think that's something to be put on the table for down the road, to think how we can, you see what, I don't know, I can never remember her name, but that young woman who's the lead for climate change in the world, was it Greta? I mean, she's like one of the top 5 people in the world I want to meet.
Yeah.
So, I could see if we could do that, because it's just, we have such a special place in Concord, and no matter who you talk with outside, as soon as you mention Concord, even if they've never been here, they know about what this community is all about. So it just seems to me that maybe I'm talking in a circle, but I do think younger people need to get involved and should be involved, and I don't know how that outreach occurs. Okay.
Yeah, that's a very separate issue, but related issue. I
Yes.
think. Very related.
I'm supporting Rebecca's comments. That's what
Yeah. No, I would support that too.
Yeah.
I personally would like more time to think about this, and maybe hear more from you guys, Heather, in terms of your experience with these and your understanding of how maybe they've worked elsewhere. I mean, I can have an opinion based on all kinds of my experience, but I don't have any way of knowing how any of these have been successful, and maybe that's a bigger question.
Okay, well, I
I
can
know-
reach out to some of these towns. I'll send an email and find out how they feel like the partial demolition has been working in their community, and what if and what they would change in terms of their partial demolition definition. And maybe that'll help
in the
guide us.
profession, are there leaders here, or is this something we can find in that SharePoint? Is whatever it is, there's an online forum with the state, isn't there, about things like this?
Yeah, so we did post in the preservation listserv.
That's it.
And that's how we got some of these communities, this list of communities that
okay,
have
okay.
partial demolition. But I can reach out to the planners that administer these bylaws and find out a little bit more about how they feel like it's been working. I think that's a good idea.
I know that people I talk to, there's a very hard balance to be made here. Most people are not happy with the mansionization, or they're not really mansions, but
Right.
tearing down modest homes and replacing them with 5,000 square feet ones,
Right.
which is what happens with the last person who was talking about putting a new house and replacing an old house. If you looked at the
Right.
house next door, it was huge.
Right.
And most people understand that that's not something they hope would happen. But if you're the owner of a house that's small, that has a market value that pushes the need for a higher square footage house, you're depriving that owner of a modest house of the profit that other people have seen in their neighborhood. And that's what both the neighbor and he, I think, were concerned about, because some of these neighborhoods look like they have, it looks like it's almost hopeless in terms of trying to stop this change, but
Right.
I don't know how supportive people would be to taking away somebody's opportunity to sell their home, even if it's a tear down at a higher price because of the new house that could go there. So it's a very hard balance, I think.
Just, I'm going to chime in real quick because I'm losing my troops over here.
Yeah.
But Heather, just to give you direction in possibly drafting something for us to look at the next meeting, I like how concise Salem's, if you scroll up a little bit, it just reads very easily and concisely, and I do see the 50% in there, but maybe reaching out to that town in particular to see how that's been working, because it just seems, of all of them, it reads the best to me, I think. So it might be something to consider.
And it's
Thank you.
comprehensible, which is a big part of this, because you can get lost in all this planning jargon. And
Exactly. I found that one the easiest to digest. And as to the rest of all this, I think it's a much bigger discussion, because I think there is a very strange push and pull where people say they love the historic town. And Michael, maybe that's what the brokers are speaking to. People say they love the historic town, but then they come in and they don't want the tiny house. I think we see a lot of the push and pull between those two things. And I think that's what I was sort of trying to get at earlier when I was saying, when I talk to people of my demographic who are coming in, and they're not saying they're buying because of historic structures, they're buying because of school districts and proximity to
Right.
Boston and those kinds of things. So how do we get those people to care? What's the disconnect, and how do we get those people to care about both aspects? So yes, a discussion for another time.
yeah, I think the coffee might offer a good opportunity for that if we do that right and make it fun.
Right.
Okay, all right. 1075 Lowell Road, update and discussion. Heather, is that you again?
Yeah, I'm not really
Melissa
sure. So
has
Melissa has sent a letter
Right.
that I forwarded to the representative that I have for 1075 Lowell. So their demolition delay period has ended, and they have until, I think it's like January 11th, their 2-year period after their delay ends. You have a 2-year period to tear down the house. Otherwise, you would have to reapply for demolition review. So that period ends January 11th, I believe. So
2022, yeah. 2020.
so we've reached out to them. They're trying to get the historic structures report that the commission requested be done on the house. They've reached out to some of the consultants on the list that I gave them. Some of them were not willing to do the HSR. Some of them never got back to them. They asked me if I had anyone else. So I gave them a preservation directory from the state with a list of consultants to reach out to. They most recently responded to my email and Melissa's letter stating that they had recently gotten another quote for an HSR and it was really, really expensive. So they were waiting to hear back from another consultant that they had inquired with. So that's just where that stands.
Were you able to give them the name of the Feldman surveyors who do this 3D imaging that could be used inside the house or on the exterior?
Yeah, I think he was gonna get back to me when he heard
Gotcha.
back from the other consultant that they were waiting
Okay.
on. So I was gonna wait. I didn't want to keep bombarding them with
No,
people
no.
and names if they're already in discussions with someone.
Yeah.
So,
I'm
so
sorry.
they're
it's
trying
taking-
to do the HSR before the house comes down. But as I understand it, their plan still is to take the house down before the January deadline.
It's too bad they're only thinking about this now.
Yeah.
I must say, because they've had a while, but
Right.
I know the 3D imaging might be less expensive. I know historic structures reports are very expensive. I don't know what change has happened on the interior of the house because I had heard earlier that there was some salvaging going on. I don't know if that's true or not. but-
Right, and that's something I did
And the filming.
send in my email was that, the photographs that are going to be part of an HSR, it's really important that interior demolition hasn't already taken place or started
Mhm. Yeah,
before those photographs are taken,
Yeah.
and they didn't
They haven't
respond directly to
responded.
that comment.
okay.
So,
That's too bad, but I'm guessing the movie has also taken its toll. I don't know what that might be, but it
right,
is.
I don't know.
It is a horror movie. Okay, okay, thank you, and I guess we wait to hear. So
Right.
commission membership, I think it's just incumbent upon all of us to think about who might be upcoming members of the commission or associate members. There's a member's position open, right? Is that correct?
No, we
Or is it
currently are
associate?
full right now, but Melissa has indicated that Tom is moving to
That's
New
what it was.
Hampshire.
Yeah. that's-
So he'll be stepping off the commission because he'll no longer live in Concord.
Right.
So we will have an opening, and there's the opportunity to move an associate member up to a full member and then try to get a new associate member on. And so Alan's not here tonight, but Rebecca and Alan are both our associate members. Alan has been an associate member longer than Rebecca, but he may not be interested in stepping up to a full member. So I think maybe I'll send an email to Alan and Rebecca, or I'll email Alan and see, just because since he's been an associate member longer, usually that's how that person would
Yeah.
step up next. But if he's not
Happily
interested,
nominate him.
I was going to say, Rebecca probably think that was fine.
Yeah, no, I would happily nominate him. Do we, in terms of looking for a new associate member, do we get access to green card? Is it the green card and the people who have expressed interest in this particular commission?
yeah, so when new green cards come in, I am emailed. I have not gotten an email about a green card coming in about this. So I can send an email about existing green cards that are on file and people that we can reach out to and see if anyone's still interested. But if you guys know of anyone that's interested in serving on the Historical Commission, encourage them to submit a green card as soon as possible so that it is on our list of people to review and reach out
Yeah,
to.
I have a person who I think would be a strong candidate, and she's out of the country right now, or out of state at least, but I'll be in touch with her when she returns. She formerly was on the HDC, so.
Great. I have a question. I did notice, hello?
Hello,
Oh, okay. Can you hear me?
yeah,
Oh, good, good, yeah. So I did notice that Alan's term expires in October of this month, of this year. So do we vote to,
Now?
is this other opportunity going to be available next month? It doesn't affect his presence on the commission right now that it's expiring in October, does it?
That's a great
Um,
question.
Yeah, so I can submit a request to the select board for them to
Yeah, why don't we do that?
re-up. Otherwise, I think if Rebecca, is saying that she's okay with Alan moving up, if he's interested, we could have a motion to move or have him nominated as a full member. And if he's amenable to that, then I'll send that to the select board and have them, instead of having them re-up him as
Sure.
associate and then change him to a full member, we could
Okay.
just move him
Is
to a
that,
full
is that
member.
something we vote on? Is that something we vote on tonight?
Yeah, we could do that
Yeah.
tonight.
Okay.
And then we'll just say, if he's not interested and wants to stay as
Right.
an associate member, then whatever green cards we're looking at, if Rebecca doesn't want to move up, then we could
Sure.
get someone as a full member.
Okay, great. All right, so
Can we have a motion on that?
I make a motion to nominate Alan as a full member of the Historical Commission.
Okay,
I'll second.
okay. And Michael, I suspect you're an aye.
Yes,
And
I just,
Rebecca and Rebecca.
Aye.
oh yeah, I'm
And
sorry. You want me to say aye? I keep
we have-
forgetting
we
to
have-
say it. I
we have to have a
apologize,
vote.
Nancy.
We have to nominate them.
Aye.
Okay, and I vote aye. So thank you. I hope Alan agrees.
Yes, I will send him an
Yeah.
email.
Okay. Updates and reports from observer assignments.
I'm sorry, I have none, so.
Michael, do you?
No. No.
Who do you usually or sometimes sit in on? Which committee?
Me?
Yes.
I have not been assigned to any.
Oh, do we not have?
Yeah.
You missed an assignment? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I don't have one, right.
Oh, we should fix that. I sit in on the Department of Public Works, and I sat in on 2 meetings that I don't think I've reported on. They have some very interesting work going on Hubbard Street. I haven't looked at the plans, but it is change. There's a lot of changes to Hubbard Street that are in line with the Complete Streets or More Than Streets programs, and funding was obtained from the Complete Streets program that the state supports. It's going to be interesting to see what that means. The most recent meeting that I couldn't attend for the whole time, they have continued to do reports on road programs, water programs, sewer programs, recycling programs. So they've been very detailed and actually time consuming. Usually the other meetings I've been to in the past have been shorter, but it's really been interesting to hear from all the folks in Public Works, the extensive reporting on what they're doing and what that means. And there's a lot of information on the Public Works Commission website. So. And the Recreation Department actually is seeking money from the Community Preservation Committee for a strategic plan for their recreational planning, which is which is interesting effort, actually. Okay. Minutes. If there are
So
no.
I didn't actually get the September minutes done. So I will have those for your next meeting.
Okay, all right.
I'm overwhelmed with minutes right now from
I can imagine.
my
I
twice a week
know,
commission
know.
meetings.
I know. I don't know how you're doing it, Heather.
And so I will be scheduling a meeting. I believe I'm going to do November 10th. Most everyone indicated that that would work for them. I think Bob was the only one that couldn't make November 10th. So I am going to schedule a meeting on November 10th if you want to mark your calendars.
Yeah.
We will have a demo public hearing at that meeting.
Right,
Okay.
yes, right.
Okay. Okay, I think it's within my authority to declare the meeting ended. Oh, Linda, sorry. Linda Escobedo is here from the Select Board. Linda, do you have anything you would like to add? I know she's there. There she is.
I'm here. Good evening, everyone.
Good
Hi, Linda.
Yeah, always interesting topics. I just wanted to comment that you may already be aware of this, but there's a special select board meeting on Friday at 2:00. That's tomorrow. That's just been set up because of some redistricting,
Oh.
redistricting issues. And the legislature has drafted redistricting that would separate Carlisle and Concord and split us up in several pieces. So it's very
Right.
important that you come for that discussion.
What
Or
time-
at least register your viewpoint with the legislature.
What time is it?
2:00 tomorrow afternoon.
2:00. And I
It's-
heard that they were going to be splitting Concord. Is that
Right,
correct?
Correct.
Ah,
yes, splitting Concord.
And separating, so Concord and Carlisle will no longer be
together.
unified, have super majority in the precinct, which gives us clout with the legislature when we're trying to
Right.
get things done.
Do you
So-
care to unpack the politics a little bit about where this came from and how it ever got this far?
Well, I can say, I can tell you just part of it, in terms of my understanding, because the census data is late this year. You know, the census was delayed. The census data is coming in late. Normally, the redistricting at a precinct level is done locally first and then goes to the legislature. But the legislature, some members of the legislature decided that this was going to be too close to the required filing deadline. So they decided they wanted to give a crack at it first and then come to the local towns and precincts. So
Wow.
yes, it's huge.
Yeah, it sounds,
And so we're responding as quickly as possible. And I think we have to have any feedback we're going to provide. I think it's by Monday. It's coming up very quickly.
quickly. Wow, the legislature never acts that fast, do they?
I know.
Michael would have some thoughts about
So-
that.
I know, something certainly is going on. I'm shocked when I heard
I'm
this last
shocked.
week.
Yeah,
Yeah, I heard this last week, and it's certainly not good, from
No.
from a legislative perspective. But so I don't know how it got this far. There had to be
Yeah.
some reason, and I don't understand how it got this far without the town or people not being aware of it
Knowing
back months
about it.
ago.
yeah, it
I'm
just
sorry?
came out of nowhere.
Yeah, I know. It doesn't make any sense because that isn't usually how the legislature works, But
Wow.
So there we are, and we're trying to act as quickly as we can here.
so if we
2
take a
o'clock-
vote, if we take a vote tonight that they can't do it, can we do that?
Well, I'll pass it along. I'll
The
pass it along.
historical commission objects.
Yeah,
Oh,
Yeah, well, I think attendance at the meeting is probably good and just being aware to
right.
begin with,
Right.
with.
Yeah,
And more information is on the select board site. Is that correct?
Is that a Zoom
It's
meeting
on the
or is that?
agenda, posted agenda.
But what
Yeah.
about the backup material? Like there must be legislation that's being proposed that could be referenced and accessed,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
I don't quote me on this because this is my third meeting in a row here. I think it's noted on the agenda, the legislative.
Oh,
version.
okay,
Okay.
the
Yeah.
bill
Either
number.
that or I've read it somewhere else, so
Yeah, right.
Okay.
don't hold me to that.
Good luck to us. All right, thank you.
Yeah, thanks,
Thank you
everybody. Good
Okay,
night.
Thank you.
then I guess on that happy note, we can adjourn.
Okay.
And it is 8:27. Is that right, Heather? Do we
Yes.
agree? All right. Does that do it? It was good
Yes.
to see everybody, the few of us that were here, but
Yeah.
that was great. Okay.
Yeah.
Good night, everyone.
Great to see.
Sorry to